At the risk of sounding like the biggest jerk you're going to hear from today, I want to talk about the term appointment television. Now, this is a topic that I've brought up on the channel before, but appointment television is essentially the idea that there is something so important you want to be involved with it live because you want to be part of the conversation. You want to be built up into the height of the zeitgeist, the hype train. And I did have a video that I just released where I talked about how industry-wide, I don't think Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter is changing publishing forever. But one of the positive things about being part of a fandom that you love is that when someone is excited, it's so fun to get excited with them and for everyone to be on the same train. It's something that I think as culture has got more splintered, and I don't mean just that in the negative like political sense, but as culture has niched out into smaller and smaller chunks of very specified content, greater sects of appointment television or, appointment anything have sort of gone by the wayside. One of the awesome things that Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter has done is that at least 116,000+ people have gathered together to celebrate the surprise release of these 4 Brandon Sanderson novels. There's also people who are waiting on the wings who haven't decided to purchase the books for themselves yet, and I'm sure there are people who can't take part in the Kickstarter who are still excited about this. We're all excited about this one thing together, and that's really cool. Now, there is a little bit of splintering going on because some people are more prone to getting the information early. They don't want the spoilers, and some people are just excited to experience the excitement with everyone else. I'm in that train right now. This week, just like last week, and just like I'm planning on continuing for the next 2 announcements of book titles and or early chapters, and or maybe just like following the rest of this Kickstarter, I'm happy to follow along with things as they are released and talk about them with any of you filthy animals who don't have the patience to wait for the full releases yourselves and you want to just get a sneak peek about what this is all about. A bunch of people did mention the fact that I kept moving around in this chair, and yes, I'm excited. Yes, the chair is not the most comfortable thing. It's a combination of so many factors. I'm going to do you all a favor, and I am going to organize this video in a way that might hurt my channel, which is to say I'm going to give the information that most of my friends who don't want too many spoilers are going to care about first. In case you're too afraid to click on the Brandon Sanderson video, I'm going to tell you the title of the new book and a little bit of context about this new book, and then I will give a spoiler warning and we'll talk about the preview chapters as a whole. For those of you who are just curious about the title of Brandon Sanderson's Secret Project novel number 2, the title is The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. And something that you can probably gather from this title is Brandon Sanderson mentioned 3 of the 4 books are going to be Cosmere related novels. This is the non-Cosmere related novel. And I'm actually a little bit surprised by that because looking at the covers of the 4 novels, the placeholder covers at least, this is one that I definitely thought was going to be in the Cosmere. It's that purple one with the dude standing in the beam of light. He's got a gun and a book. I thought that this was going to be a Cosmere related novel, but it turns out that it's not. I think even if you're a person who is not going to actually read any of the preview chapters early, there are some really cool things to think about with both the title of the book and with the cover. The guy's holding both a spellbook, a gun, a wizard's hat. There's all the things around, it's like bubbles or worlds or planets or something. There's a lot of things to consider, even if you're not actually going to, try to steal the cookie from the cookie jar. I think it's also worth mentioning at this time that it is official. Brandon Sanderson's book-related publishing Kickstarter is the most funded Kickstarter of all time now. Congratulations to Brandon Sanderson. I talk about why I thought this was possible and also why I don't think it's completely repeatable, and also why I think book publishing is late to the influencer hype train game in a video which I will leave in the cards up above for those of you who are about to click off this video because I'm about to dive into the spoiler section of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to at least provide that service of telling you about the title of this book and hopefully stirring your imagination for what it could be. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get more updates from me about this or any of the other mostly science fiction fantasy books that I read, sometimes other books as well, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. If you like it, give it a like. All of the things. You're on YouTube, you know what to do. But now I am going to go into the spoiler section where I talk about the preview chapters themselves. There were 6 released preview chapters for this book. Thank you so much again for watching this section pre-spoilers. The spoilers are going to start now. So I assume if you watched the spoilers for this video, then you've also read the preview chapters for the previous book, because I am going to be comparing the 2. Personally, I am less excited about this one than I was for the previous one. And part of that could be set to expectations. That could be a criticism that people could have for me because I wasn't sure what to expect the first time. And I was so blown away by the fairy tale nature of that story and the fact that it felt actually whimsical, and the fact that it didn't seem to be focusing too much on a technical magic system or anything. The sense of humor from Hoyt's perspective, all of those things made me so excited excited for that first novel. This one, I do think this is going to be good. I think it's going to be interesting, and I have faith in Brandon Sanderson to be able to execute it in a way that I end up liking it more than my initial impressions, which are, like I said, not as good as for the first book. And I do think that this being non-Cosmere related does make it inherently less exciting for those people who are super big Cosmere nerds. For people that don't care about the Cosmere, though, that could be a huge draw. It's a book that you don't have to know all of this other crazy speculative stuff to be able to understand, and you don't have to deal with the words of Brandon and the rest of the crazy Sander fans who sometimes are a little overzealous to explain the crazy complicated theories that have never actually been in any of the Cosmere books thus far. This is not that book. This is a standalone novel that is unrelated to the Cosmere, and for a lot of people, that's going to be a plus. I was able to pick up on one of the influences for this, which I'm glad. It was just the general amnesia, born identity influence, because of course you have a character who has no idea who he is, but he does have combat training. I love that nod to something like The Bourne Identity, one of my favorite movies, and I would like to see how it plays out in this weird scenario where it seems like people are sent to pocket made-up dimensions to, I guess, use their technology and their prowess to take over, it seems like. And it is a weird premise, and I'm glad that Brandon Sanderson is getting the opportunity to just let his mind go crazy and not have to tie everything back into the projects that he works for contracts. So, like, obviously, this book was written because it was a little bit of an escape for him during the pandemic. I'm glad he's letting his mind go crazy with some of this stuff, but sometimes it feels like it's a little too crazy. Like, there's the part where he's captured and all these people are talking and they're saying all of these made up words, and I get it, it's supposed to be like a historical setting, but he's sort of given himself the out of not having to know the history accurately. It's like almost like Brandon Sanderson wanted to tell a historical fantasy setting, but he didn't want people jumping down his throat about actual history the way that sometimes Cosmere fans jump down each other's throats with the words of Brandon and the other conspiracy theories related to the Cosmere. He wanted to escape that, so he allows himself to do that with this pocket dimension, but the jargon and the weirdness gets so thick for the one section of these preview chapters that you're like, dude, you are letting your mind go some weird, crazy places. You're just making up ridiculous words, and it's Brandon Sanderson. I trust it's all going to come back around, but he's really just letting his mind go weird places with this one, which, hey, that's cool. That's probably good for him. I was glad in the influences section where Brandon Sanderson says this book is not going to be focused on comedy necessarily as much as that first book is, because I don't think the comedy works as well for me in this one. People have compared both of the books to Pratchett, who I've never read, but I know is a huge Sanderson influence. I am obviously a fan of the Princess Bride movie, but the humor in the preview chapters for the first book really, really worked for me, and I liked the tone of that one. The humor in this one specifically feels way too much like it's leaning into the like, hey, I'm so quirky idea of like really front-facing, on-the-nose humor that doesn't always work for me. I know it works for other people, that's fine. So to see that this is going to be less of the focus in this one, I was glad by. Brandon said this was going to focus a lot more on action, and I am hoping to see some of that action, some of the cool sci-fi goodness you could do with this multi-dimensional travel. As Sanderson said in the notes, he wants this to be a way for there to be sort of a time travel story that gives him the freedom to not have to know the real history super well, but also it gives him the freedom to not have to be worrying about changing the future. But I think what he's going to explore, and what he sort of alludes to exploring, is it's not affecting the person's future, the main character's future, but it is going to be affecting these people's lives, whether that matters to him, the main character, or not. And I am curious to see the speculative fiction elements that he plays with while dealing with this. It's an interesting take, is what I'm trying to say. And I think it's what Sanderson himself says when he talks about it in that section at the end. I am hoping that there's actual fantasy elements to this story and that it's not just all sci-fi, because I tend to be the person that likes magic over technology almost exclusively. There's sort of allusions to potential magic things that could be happening, but of course, it's the type of story where everything could be explained with science fiction, and Brandon Sanderson, even in his fantasy books, likes to explain his magic to the point where it's almost like science fiction, though that's a debate that we've had on the channel and in the Discord before. Hey, Discord link down below for those people who want to discuss this or anything else. There's special channels for discussing these early Brandon Sanderson preview chapters. I guess it's an interesting juxtaposition for this story, because the way that this story is presented, I'm almost hoping that it goes a darker direction, even though the reason that I liked that first book was because it was so lighthearted in tone. I want to see that contrast there. I think Brandon probably wants to explore those contrasts as like this is supposed to be a freeing project for him creatively. And I really hope that is the case. And yeah, I'm just excited. I will say, I know Brandon Sanderson spent some time growing up in Lincoln, Nebraska, but the Nebraska dig, as somebody that still lives in Nebraska, what the frick gives, man? Come on. I don't hate Nebraska that much, just the weather. It's still cold. Kids are on spring break. It was 20 degrees and we had snow today. I know it's worse up north, whatever. If you've made it to this point in the video, which of the two novels are you most excited for? We can talk about that every week. How are you going to rank them? Are you excited to see what book 3 has to offer? Because Brandon said in the video version of this release that book 3 is the one that he's most excited for. And also, now that we know this is the non-Cosmere novel, we know that the next book is going to be Cosmere related. What do you think it is? What are your theories on what book 3 is going to be? In both the Discord and the YouTube comments for last week's videos, there have already been Cosmere interconnection theories, and I love it. And I'm the type of person that probably isn't going to notice them on my own, so feel free to point those things out for the first book if you are just now seeing this one. And to everyone who's just now seeing any of my videos for the first time, welcome. We love to have you here. Please don't forget about me. If you hit the subscription button, you might be able to see my videos on YouTube again in the vast amount of wonderful content and weird content that this website has to offer. Please smash that like button, Discord link down below, but I can't really tell you what to do because I'm not your dad, but I am your best friend. See ya.
Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. Always looking out tired. Sleep, no one ever get enough. If I don't show up, I might get fired.